All right. So what is up, y'all? This is Jax here with North Caesar. We've got a very, very special guest. I am so excited about this. We have got the great John Eric Bentley, who many of you know is a voice acting legend at this point. Like, he's done a lot of different characters. Don't look so surprised. Like, don't look surprised. Like, you really are. Like, a lot of the work that you've done, I was just completely shocked. So welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And you have no clue how excited I am to be here, especially because after doing all the research on what you guys are about, what you stand for, it's my heart. So I'm just excited to be here. So thank you. I think when I saw that you asked me to be on, I'm like, what? What? I think I sent you my number. I don't do that. I'm like, here, call me right now. You know?
I saw that. Okay, so ironically enough, when I hit you up, I was just like, okay, I would really love to speak with him. This would be such like a great interview, but he's like a celebrity. I don't know if I'll be able to get in contact with him. And then like I messaged you and I'm just like, okay, like I might not hear back from him, but that's okay. Like I tried. You can't tell me I didn't try. So here we go. And then my boss, we chat via Viber. And that day, my Viber had been acting up. So I saw Johnny had texted me. He's just like, hey, man, there's an important message on Instagram. Go check it out. And I'm just like, whoa, it must be really serious if Johnny's telling me about it. And so I went on there and I saw it. I'm just like, oh, my God.
Oh, that's funny. Johnny hit you up. That's funny. That's cool.
I flipped out. I was so excited about that. So everybody on everybody here at Noir is very excited about this interview. So let us just jump
I'm a fan.
right
I'm a fan of y'all. So, yeah, let's get down with it.
All right. So a couple of your roles right now. I want to go back before getting into Final Fantasy.
Okay.
So one of your roles for anime, you've been in Promare, you've been in Cannon Busters, you've been in Digimon Adventures as the narrator, Tiger and Bunny, Naruto Shippuden, and then of course Tiger's Eye from Sailor Moon. Like, I'm sorry, but when I saw that was probably my favorite role. I'm like, are you serious? Well, not his voice, but your voice was so distinct that as soon as I saw Tiger's Eye, I was just like, I could hear the voice immediately, and I'm just like.
That was fun.
Freaking out. So that was incredible to find out. And then, of course, you've done a long list of video games like The Last of Us, Deadpool, Grand Theft Auto 5, Spider-Man, Prototype, BioShock 2, Fallout, Saints Row, Lightning Returns, and the Final Fantasy Remake. And then, of course, a lot of really good 90s shows that, I, as a child, used to watch growing up, like Sister, Martin, Chicago Hope, The Jamie Foxx Show, Star Trek, The Parkers, like ER, Girlfriends, like a lot of iconic Black shows, like, are on.
Dang, you got lists like a mug. Okay.
Yes, I got, yep. I had to be prepared for this one. I knew I could not mess this one up. I had to be prepared.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. I'll go back to what you said.
Yes,
people say celebrity. I don't consider myself a celebrity. I'm just a dude who's out here working, trying to take care of the family. So, that's that Chicago hustle in me to just try to make sure that we do the work and we do excellent work so that we can continue to be rehired. So that's me.
I'm sorry. Are you from Chicago?
Uh-huh.
Me too.
Where? Where about?
South Side, over on 7315 South Coles. Close to Jeffrey, the old food exchange, which is
7847 South Cornell, right across from the Regal Theater where Leon's used to be. I used to look down on Leon's and across the street at the Regal Theater. That's a small world. Jax, that's a small world.
That's crazy.
That's really nice. You were down the street. Matter of fact, I used to walk down to Jeffrey because that's where the grocery store was, and that's where my mom did her grocery shopping. And then they had the best comic book store right before you, like in between Jeffrey and I guess South Chicago.
Yeah.
So I used to walk down that area, and they also had some of the best food too. And Harold's was over there.
Yes, I miss it. I miss Harold so much. Like another one of our vice president of operations and our music producer Will is from Chicago too.
Oh, cool.
So's Johnny's wife actually. So we got a couple of Chicago people. So.
That's cool. Yeah, that's the crib. That's the crib. Never deny the crib.
I miss the food. But let's talk some more about like your earliest role. So what was it that inspired you to get into acting in the first place? Let's start there.
Well, my mom was a school teacher on the west side of Chicago, out of Nashville, Tennessee. My dad was from Alabama. My dad worked in a steel mill, and he just worked with his hands. I think he had like maybe a 7th grade or 8th grade education. That was it. Dad just went straight to work. Mom was an educator, and so were my aunts and my uncles. They were also part of SNCC at the time, and I think They were getting arrested while my mom was using the bathroom across the street. They were in Walgreens. They were getting arrested. My mom had used the bathroom because she had like rheumatoid arthritis or something. And so I've got all this crazy history and family. But coming from a family of educators, and I'm adopted, so that's what's really crazy about it. My mom taught me how to read at a very, very young age. So I think I had finished reading the Iliad, the Odyssey, several different things. Probably at the age of 9, I was done reading them. And I was also a comic book fan because my mom brought me up, I think at 5 years old, she was like, yo, stop asking me all these questions. Because I was like, hey, Mom, what does this mean? What does this mean? What is it? She said, we have 5 dictionaries in the house. We have 2 sets of Encyclopedia Britannica in the house. Go look it up. You know how to read. I taught you that for a reason.
The exact same way.
You know? And, you know, it's also like you getting up out of this hood. So because of that, she would say, go read. So I think I was at kindergarten, and at the commencement ceremony, they wanted to do this big presentation. And so they said, hey, can one of you guys read Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech? And, you know, I was a little kid. It's like I was intelligent, but I wasn't like a volunteer, you know, and I was really shy as a kid, too. And so because I was the only child, my mom was like, yo, I heard that your teacher asked you to do this thing. I said, she didn't ask me. She said she asked the class. You know how to read. You need to do that speech. I'm like, And so she made me do the speech. But she said, well, I'm going to do you one better, baby. You're going to memorize it. I said, what? She said, you're going to memorize it. I'm going to show you how to do it. So I memorized the speech, and I gave the speech. And, you know, I had to be on stage by my lonesome. All my little classmates were in this, you know, and it was in a church in the west side of Chicago, literally right in the heart, right on Kedzie, where a lot of the riots had taken place from when King was murdered. So I didn't know all of this until much later in life. I did the speech, and I think people applauded for 5 minutes, and I didn't understand what that meant because there were grandmas and grandpas there, husbands and wives there, children who had been a part of that movement, a part of that whole situation, who were alive during that time, and they were moved to tears or they were shouting for joy. It was like being in church to me. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is different. I've never seen anybody react from my voice. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I think I like this. And then the simple fact, because like I said, I was very shy and kind of reserved, because I was on a stage, they couldn't break the fourth wall of the stage. You know, so I was like, oh, I'm good with this as long as y'all can cry back there, you know. and so I went, wow, this is a cool feeling. And it felt powerful, but it also felt like, man, my little words have the power to move you spiritually, emotionally, and make you happy and bring joy. I like this feeling. So that's when I got hooked. And then, you know, growing up, I played sports. So I was playing sports all my life, but I was the verbal one then. I was the team captain. I was the one who was leading the cheers in baseball. I was the one who was encouraging everybody on the field. If it's football, if it's basketball, whatever it was, I became that dude. Because I'm like, if I can motivate somebody with words, cool thing. Then I found out you can get paid for this. So, you know, in high school, I did all declaration, duet acting, all this stuff. I'm like, great. Well, I got a scholarship to play football at the University of Minnesota. When you're on scholarship, as Johnny knows, you are owned by, 1, the NCAA, and you are 2, owned by that school. So you can't work you can't work. You can't have a job. And you really can't have anything on television, on camera, or even voice, because you are representing now that university or the NCAA. You are on scholarship. You are theirs. So I had to wait until I graduated undergrad to be able to do any kind of performance, to do anything on camera or vocally until I finished school. So I was there for 5 years, and then I immediately got accepted into several different programs and wound up staying there for my master's degree at the University of Minnesota because the Guthrie was there. I mean, I was already, you know, working in the state. So I decided to stay there, and that's pretty much how I got started. And then I got married in '96, and I said, babe, I've been to New York. I've tried New York. I'm from Chicago. You know, these are all theater towns in my mind. I'm not thinking camera like that. But in Minneapolis, I'd done a lot of industrials and a couple commercials. And I'm like, well, we've done this one. Let's try LA. Let's see what it's like. And we got a 13-day round trip ticket just to see what it was like. On the 11th day, I said, hey, let me stay out here a little bit longer. Let me go and continue, because I was going back and forth from, I think we were in Ontario, which is a haul, to Hollywood. I was going back and forth just to try to meet with people, just to try to hand in my resume and all that other stuff. Met with one lady, Monica Swan, who did Sister Sister, and wound up, she also did the Wayans Brothers and In the House. Those are my first two jobs, Sister Sister and In the House, through Monica. She was the only one who responded to me once I did a mass mailing, and she was like, yo, come in and talk. We talked for almost 3 hours, and she basically became my advocate for everything that I'd come out here for. And literally, bless her heart, she's no longer with us, but she was who pretty much believed in me and got me a start without an agent, without representation, without anything. She said, hey, audition for this show. I'll audition for the show. Got the job, met Jack A, met Tim Reed, and that being on set for them teaching me, this is the 3 cameras. This is where you speak. This is how you do this. Basically like theater, baby. That's what Jack A said. It's like theater, baby. It's no different and I had just come off of serious theater runs in Minnesota. So that's how I got into it. As far as voice stuff, I was doing industrial things back in Minneapolis, ear prompted and for Honeywell and saying, this is how you do this, in-house stuff. And then someone said, hey, you can do cartoons. Oh, you can do video games. You can. And I went, really? So the rest is history from there.
That is an incredible story. Like, it sounds like you've gone through so much as far as like where you started out to being here now. Was it quite a transition going from sports to acting? Is there like a middle ground there? Would you say it's almost completely different type of animal?
Well, the sports part of it allows the discipline, because you are regimented. You have to know your body. You have to know your tool. And for me, I'm a big fan of, for acting, it's voice, body, face. This is your instrument is your calling card. It's your face. And even if you're good looking or if you're not good looking, what can you do with your face to express emotion, to express change, to express, so it's face control. I used to teach this actually when I was in grad school. Your body, you have to have control of your body. If you look at Dick Van Dyke, I'll go all the way back to Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin. You look at Flip Wilson, the things that they did with their body was just unbelievable when it came to, okay, well, if I don't talk, then how do I present this emotion, or how do I present this? As far as your voice, so many different things. I mean, what's your range? Can you sing? Do you understand what iambic pentameter is when you're doing Shakespearean text? So many different things within those 3 categories. And I realized, if I can put this together, then I can make something happen here. And so when you're trained, back in the day when I was going to school, I remember saying, I'm going to LA. And someone said, hey, what are you going to do? I was like, well, what do you mean? They said, are you going to do television? Are you going to do film? What are you going to do? You're going to do commercials? I was like, what do you mean? I'm trained to do it all. I'm going to do it all. They're like, no. They don't take commercial actors serious when you do film. They don't take television actors serious if you do. They had all these different things. I'm like, I am not going to, just like in Chicago, because my mom raised me that way and my dad fought for me to be that way. Don't get pigeonholed. Don't get put in a box. Don't tell you just because you're black, you're going to die at 13, 17, 19, 21. I was like, I'm beating all these damn odds because I just had a drive to try to excel and try to just do something different. You know what I mean? That's how. Then I credit that to my parents and my uncles and my aunts for saying, hey, look, you don't have to be put in a pigeonhole. So I'm like, I'm gonna do it all. So all of that led to, hey, you can do these voiceovers. Why not do them? And I think a lot of my friends, a lot of my peers are like, how are you doing white people's voices? And I'm like, I've been around a lot of white people in my life. So, you're talking about a kid who literally, because I was so, I don't know how to, I like to be by myself a lot. Like I would go to the club. I remember, I'll never forget going to the club. Prince had a club called Glam Slam in Minneapolis. And people would laugh at me because I would go to the club and I would go upstairs and I wouldn't go to the dance floor. I would see a couple or I'd see different people and I would give them voices. And everybody around me would just laugh. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's going back to when I was in, doing the speech. I'm like, people are moved by, okay, it's funny. Okay, well, let's do a serious one. But I was also that kid who went to a bus station by myself, or not a bus station, but a bus stop. and would be like, I wonder what they talk like. Oh, look how they're moving. Oh, they're leading with their chin. Okay, let me see if I can do that. I was that dude, so and I know Johnny understands what I'm saying. It's very different when you are an athlete and you have the mindset of an artist. Whether it be through music, whether it be through acting, whether it be through art, whatever it may be, it's different. And a lot of my peers looked at me different. They're like, oh, you crazy. Oh, you gay. Oh, you this. So you was like,
yeah.
No, I'm just different, bro. I like different
Yeah.
stuff. Or have you watched this? Have you tried this? Do you know anything about anime? Or do you know anything about movies other than the ones that you have been trained to watch? So I was a little different.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with that because being different has made you into who you are and has put you where you need to be. So
yes, it has.
To our viewers, please keep being different. Like, for real. Like, you heard it from the man yourself. Please keep being different.
Yeah, and excel at what you want to do. Study it, work it, figure it out, excel at it, push to be the best at it. However that may be, however that may look for you. Give yourself a lofty goal and find someone who you think is doing it. That is your role model, believe it or not. Find someone who you think is doing it excellent and well and successful at it and try to be better than them. Not them, better than them. So that'll help you with consistency. That'll help you with staying focused. And that'll help you get through, especially in this business, those times when you're like, this is hard. I want to quit, So, it's what I've had to do. I've had to set goals, small goals that lead to larger goals.
Well, as an aspiring voice actor, I greatly appreciate that advice. Like, that helps a lot because I know a lot of people, especially when it comes to anime, manga, video games, well, not manga, but, video games and whatnot, they want to be voice actors. Like, I don't know if you know him, Bill Butts, Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, those are, like, the two main black voice actors. Of course, Gabe Kunda, like, a lot of the black voice actors that we know, like, I've tried to interact with, and, like, look up to them, admire them, figure out what they're doing and how you and they are doing it so well. Another one is Mela Lee.
That's my girl.
Like,
Mela and I are like, that's like my baby sister. I literally just got off the phone with her yesterday. Yeah, she's killing it. She's the stuff. So Mela and I met on a soundstage doing what we call looping. Do you know what looping is?
No, sir.
So say for example, we're looking at a TV show and you have two main characters that are talking. Well, they're the main characters. They're talking. But say, for example, they're in a restaurant. Well, you have to now, on a soundstage, this is looping, this is post-production, you have to create the atmosphere. You have to be those people in that restaurant. And if there are specific people in the background, you have to be those people. If you see them they're actually not talking on set so that the actors can be heard. Well, now you have a group that goes in and says, okay, we got to do those voices, those voices, those voices. All right, let's do this. So that's what looping is. So that's where I met Mela. And that girl taught me so much. And she is an incredible talent. You're talking about range. What people don't know is that Mela is one of the most intelligent people you'll ever meet in your life. She's been in nursing. She's been in law school. She has been all over the world. She can sing. I don't know if you know, she is the lead singer of Magnolia Memoir. I suggest getting everything that you can. She did a cover. I'm bragging on her because she's just the bomb to me. She did a cover of Rainbow Connection. The Muppet movie, Rainbow Connection with Kermit the Frog. She did a cover of it with her band. Jim Henson's production company heard it and they wanted to use it. I'm bragging on them because they're just incredible. But Mela's voice is unreal. She did a whole album where she sounds like Billie Holiday, and then all of a sudden she switches and she sounds like what's the girl? Amy Winehouse. Mela is incredible. She's one of the baddest voice actors you'll ever see. She's very good friends also with Erica Lindbeck. They are very good friends. They have a show, Lindbeck and Lee. Those two are powerhouses. There's so many good voiceover actors out there, but Mela's the bomb. Bill is the bomb. I wish Bill got more. Bill's doing stuff that I wish I could do. He always like hits me on social media like, yo, man, congratulations. It's outstanding. I'm like, you did One Punch Man. And, I'm fanboying out. And he's like, bruh, you did Barret, though. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So, and the dude is working out like crazy. Bill's doing workouts on quarantine, lifting his furniture. I'm like, what the hell?
I saw that. I'm just like, he's at it.
Well, I was teasing him. I said, man, that's from IKEA. Stop playing. You know that's light. He made it look like that boy's strong as all get up. But there are a lot of voice actors out there. Phil Lamar. I mean, just you're talking about people who are Keith. What's Keith's last name? Oh, I can't remember Keith's last name right now. Just folks are killing it in the industry that you would not know, and you've got to be able to do more than one voice. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why I tell people, man, get in front of a mirror, do different faces. It'll help you do different voices. Mm-hmm. Study people. People all have different voices. It doesn't just have to be within your culture. That was a thing that people tried to, well, you got to do it black. You got to be black. You got to come back to the hood. And it's like, I'm black. My skin shows that I'm black. I don't have to wear the dashiki and a headband to let you know I'm black. I'm black. I'm black as they come. I'm black. I'm from Chicago. But I don't have to just do black stuff. Mm-hmm. But I want to do more black stuff because we aren't represented. So I'm going to get in and then figure out how to represent us the right way. Because so many people have represented us the wrong way. And I just can't deal with it. That was another bit. I'm just talking. I'm sorry. You didn't even ask me that question.
Please talk.
Talk. That was a big thing for me with Barret. A lot of people wanted Barret of what they saw in the original Final Fantasy VII. And I thought that Barret was a great character. It was my first RPG game. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's an RPG. I don't know what an RPG is. I played it. I'm like, there's a black man in an RPG game. Oh my God, he didn't die. And I got excited. I'm like, oh my God, they didn't kill us. We're a leader of something. Mm-hmm. And, you know, but then I saw how he was portrayed in the writing. And then some of the, believe it or not, in the little polygon movement, the shaking and angry all the time and shooting stuff up. And I'm like, okay, that's how they see us. Yeah. That's how that creator may see us at the time. I get it. And of course, it's an animation. I get it. But how can I do this so that I'm not crossing the line? So how can I do this so I'm representing me? How can I do this so I'm representing my family well? And how can I do it more importantly so that I'm representing my people the right way without this stereotypical angry black man, big muscular brute? How do I do this and give him justice without crossing that line? I didn't want to do a caricature. I wanted to do a character. And so I took a lot of different things from a lot of different places, even family members that I have, their vocal tones, what they're like, how they're perceived by me, how they're perceived by the world, and said, okay, how do I do this and make it right? So, you know, that's how Barret came about. And a lot of the backlash that I got, and it hasn't been much. I say out of every 250 that love it, there may be 2 people that say, it sucked, man, it was too racial. And the people that are hitting me up is my own people. And it's like, what the I'm like, you do realize we are rare in this business. Yeah. And I know you got an uncle like that. So stop playing. You know? But, you know, I was very, very aware and very, very cautious of how I portrayed this black man who has a serious story arc. And if you don't play that arc, then, and you only see clips of him doing certain things, you don't understand his journey. You don't understand where he stood in the very beginning of the game, where he's like, let's go Merc, all the way to, I'm not going to do any spoilers, all the way to, you know, the end of the installment. There has to be an arc. If there's no journey, if his character doesn't change, as I try to do for most of my characters, if that character doesn't have a journey, a beginning, a middle, and an end, then there's no story. You're not interested. So how can I do this to make him as real as possible, even though it's a video game or a world that's been created, and bring you on that journey and want you to be in that journey, and little parts of it be entertained within that journey. I'm sorry, I'm just talking.
No, please talk. Like, I will never interrupt you. Like, please go ahead and talk, because it really is interesting to actually get into the mind of the person who voiced a very iconic character. And the fact that you had so much input over how his character would be voiced. You know, you said no to a lot of things that were asked of you in regards to the portrayal of Barret. And I think you did a very good job with it, because some of your dialogue in the game is incredibly impassioned. Like, it's emotional. I was watching my partner play and I was getting teary-eyed. Like, this is incredible. Like, this is a really great character. Because I will admit, I was very nervous to see Barret portrayed. I was very afraid of that. I was very nervous about that. I'm just like, oh God, like I'm so scared. But like now to actually know what went into the character, just to see like how impassioned, like at times like Barret was a pastor, at times Barret was a father, like, and I loved his relationship with Marlene. I'm like, that was incredible. Like to know that you were a father, I'm just like, oh, this. I felt like that gave it a lot more depth to it too, with his relationship with Marlene. I thought it was one of the most precious things like ever to see this big hulking character who was often perceived as angry, be just so gentle and soft with Marlene in that way was really sweet. And that's something I want to ask. Did they do any facial recognition? Like, did any of your facial expressions make it into Barrett's character? Was that already kind of done for? Like, before you got the role?
So that's another thing. As an actor, period, you need to be prepared. As a voice actor, big time. That's another thing that a lot of people don't understand. The American voice actors, I ain't gonna lie, Square Enix did an unbelievable job with the vocals. I shouldn't say the vocals. With the music, with the visuals, everything, the storytelling, unreal. They took the original and like boosted it, in my opinion. Someone who's played it from back in the day, but the actors, the voiceover actors, they put it down because on our side here in America, it had already been mocapped, it had already been face capped, and it had already been voiced by the Japanese actors. We didn't get to do that, so we already had. When we went into a booth, we had their Japanese language. Our interpreter was in the booth with us. It was incredible, awesome. They had two interpreters, not interpreters, but two writers who interpreted the Japanese to English. We had what they did vocally, and you had to do it within the amount of time they did it. So you're already. It's almost like doing anime. You have that much time to put it in those flaps. But they changed it. Square Enix changed it so that when we spoke, it wasn't just flaps. It was us mouthing the words. But we still didn't do the face cap. They still did it over there. That's they did the right thing by not bringing the game out when everybody was anticipating and everybody was all upset and angry. I'm like, I look at people now who I have personal friends who are like, I can't believe they did. I'm like, you're glad they did it now, aren't you? And oh my God, it's one of the best things I've ever. I'm like, yeah, just time. Patience in this world is a virtue. People don't get it. But we like, I was explaining to someone said, hey man, I really don't like how they made Barret, just do all this stuff in the beginning. I'm like, bruh, you do realize that all that physical stuff that he was doing was what the Japanese actor did. I had to then translate what he did into English and make it make sense, make his physical match up to the words. That's not easy. That's not easy to do that. If I don't move like that when I talk, if I don't express myself like that when I move, then I got to now figure out, okay, if I'm going to be married, I know what voice I want to use, but I don't know how to match that voice to what they physically have already done because that's not me, right? So how do I do that? So it was a whole left brain, right brain thing going into a booth. It was straight up work. And I know that was probably the same case for the other actors. But for me personally, it was a challenge to go, how can I make this work? That speech where he's talking about, I know you hear the planet crying out. I know you can. Well, how can you not make that a sermon? How can you not make that like a pastor speaking when, first of all, Barret monologues. He's one of the only characters that you'll see monologue, and monologues aren't really a thing anymore. So how do you, and he's got the floor and he's commanding attention and he's talking to his team. How can you not make, I tried 4 different ways and every one of them to me, and I think to the director, fell flat because it didn't match the movement of his bigness and his arms and him, and he's talking and he's pointing at a cloud. It doesn't match if you go, Mako is, Shinra is sucking up all this Mako on this planet. It doesn't Even if I do it in his voice, it doesn't match if I'm calm. It doesn't match if I'm impassionate. You see what I'm saying? So how do you now take that and match that movement? So I'm like, yo, I'm gonna do it this way. Oh, that didn't work. I'm gonna do it this way. And my directors, thank goodness, and the interpreters there, John and Ben, thank you for their patience. They were like, yeah, we're glad you're playing with it. We like that one. I'm like, okay, did that one work? And I always second guess myself because I'm like, man, I could have done better. I could have done better. And so I found a way to do it and tie it into me, how I was brought up, what I stand for, all these different things. So that's what worked for me.
I think that I feel like this interview is going to give a lot of people the perspective that they didn't have.
Oh, yeah.
Because you just gave me a lot of information right now, and it's making me just think back a lot, so far to the reception of the character, to a lot of what Barret did in the game. Like, it's really good to have this insight. So this has been an amazing interview. Like, that was something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to get more to Barret's character. I wanted to get more into, how you yourself and your experiences, both from childhood to the man that you are now, influenced like such a great character. And I just really want to say you did amazing, like hands down. Like, just
thank you.
You did.
Thank
great
you very much. Trying to manage life during this time is tricky, and I always sprint towards joy and what brings peace and what brings, I like sprint towards it, because as a dad, as a husband, as a problem solver for most of my friends, I don't have that time to really grieve. I learned that a long time ago. So I have to take my time to go towards the things that fill me up, the joy, the making people happy, doing things that I like to do. You know what I mean? So I've had to do that. Not be selfish, but taking the time to do it. So this right here, we can talk for a minute. I'm good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That does actually make me, I do have a question though. So how has the pandemic affected like so many voice actors like around the world and their workflow and everything? Like, how has that impacted the voice acting community, their careers, and how are you guys pushing out content? Because I know a lot of different shows. I'm like, one of my favorite shows is Fruits Basket, and I know that's on hold now, and I'm very sad about that, but a lot of shows are going on hold now. So how is the voice acting community, the directors, everyone involved, how is everybody managing that right now?
In some cases, like where I am now, I don't know if you can kind of tell, I'm in my booth.
Yeah.
I always had the means to record at home, especially for auditions and everything. But I literally used to use a USB Blue Yeti mic and I put it in I put it in an insulated box from Staples, and that's how I did my work. Well, now because they want studio quality, you have to have an interface. You have to have a specific microphone. Or different choices. You have to have studio quality set up so that you can do the job at home. So either they'll call in, so many different ways, and I'm finding out everybody wants it different. You can do it through Skype. You can have them on Skype while you're going through Source Connect. You can do it through, and I'm looking at all my little apps down here. You can do it through Discord. You can do it through this app called Reaper. There's an app called Pix, which allows you to do work through voiceover stuff. It records. So many different ways to do this. So many different. Aspera allows them to be on your computer. Just so many different. Zoom. All these different ways to do this. People are finding innovative ways, which I think a lot of people who are 9-to-5ers are going, well, I can just set up my office at home and get it done. And I think a lot of businesses now are going to go, wait a minute. We've been paying to rent this building or this mortgage and this and lease and this, and they can do it at home. So I think, and for voiceover stuff, specific stuff like anime and video games, I think they still want us in a booth. But as of right now, the productions that they can do, they are literally patching us through, and we'll both get on Source Connect, or it's different ways to do it. And that's what's happening right now. And if you are fortunate enough to have a booth or make a booth, or my booth, everybody's like, man, how'd you do a booth? I got online and I figured out how to do a booth with PVC pipes, as opposed to paying $5,000 for an in-home studio. I think I paid $100 to get PVC pipes, to get moving blankets and to make a structure that is in my bedroom that has vocal quality, sound booth quality vocals, so that I can just do the job here, send it off. You know, a lot of people were recording on GarageBand. Well, guess what? GarageBand only goes to a certain decibel that they want, or you can't. I forgot what the number is. You can't use GarageBand, so now I have to find something else. Well, stuff gets expensive. Well, you can also say, okay, well, this is a free one. Audacity, one of the best. And listen, GarageBand I thought was the easiest thing in the world. Audacity makes GarageBand look complicated, and it's not. And so I use Audacity. And so there's different ways to go about doing this, but it's research, it's talking to fellow voice actors, it's talking to people in booths, it's having a good attitude about your job, because you never know what's going to happen when it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I've always tried to be ahead of the curve and prepared. So me, fortunately, I'll also hustle up jobs. Hey, what y'all doing? You need hey, what's going on here? Or go back to what got me pretty much here, Voice 1, 2, 3. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and pay my little $200, because I've seen we're paying I think it's more now, but when I started, it was like $250. Mm-hmm. My first job paid for that and my equipment with Voice 1, 2, 3. And I know there's other platforms out there, but literally my first job that I booked paid for, and that was with my USB mic, a little old box, and in a room that I know it was getting echo. I didn't even know how to adjust gains, and I didn't know any of that stuff. And literally it paid for the first job. And I went, wait a minute, if I go back to that, then I can at least have some kind of income coming in, because it's all about taking care of the family for me. Mm-hmm. You know, so there's so many different ways to do it and so many different resources out there. And I'm not afraid to ask people. There's a lot of folks in the entertainment business, the humility is just not part of their makeup. And for me, I don't give a rip, because it's like, yo, I got to take care of a family. You know what I'm saying? So that's just me.
See, okay, just to hear you talk about Audacity scares me, because I'm still very early in like learning. Like, I only decided maybe because I knew I always wanted to be a voice actress, like without a doubt. Like growing up watching anime, video games, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. Especially because people tell me I have a distinct voice, and I've always kind of had a complex about that. Like, believe it or not, I'm like, oh, my voice is too deep or something like that, something to that effect. So I'm just like, So I decided to take it really seriously when I started doing videos and reviews and analysis of series and stuff like that. I'm just like, okay, this is what I want to do. So, I talked to Johnny, and he helped me get set up. We've gone through a couple of different microphones, and it was me needing to learn how to use the equipment that I have. Like, even now, like, I'm still learning. Like, I had to ask Will, who does like music stuff. Like, okay, I got all the stuff, but what I didn't get was like an interface. So I just thought, hey, I can plug my microphone into the computer and that'll start recording. No, like, I had to learn controls, and I'm presently learning Adobe Audition, and that's like overwhelming. So just to hear that Audacity is like a whole different beast, it's like, oh yeah. God.
I have Adobe. I have what is this? I'm looking at all this now. There's a new one out that people are asking me to get, Nuendo, and it's like they give you the film to do, and it's just like Pro Tools. I have Pro Tools. That's like been the go-to. Aspera, Pix, Discord. I think Reaper, all these different things. There's so many different ways to do it, but I try to find the best quality and the easiest way to do it. And I have found that Audacity is unbelievably easy. It's just like using GarageBand, but easier, like I said. And once you get used to it, it's so smooth. It's free. I could send you a list of the things that out here I've been asked to. Okay, here's the whole package for under $200. What? I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So there's ways to do this at production level quality. And don't get me wrong, everybody wants something different. There are people who have unbelievable setups in their booths. I mean, millions and millions of dollars invested in their booths, especially when you get to Warner Brothers or Universal or all the different sound booths there. But you can basically do this at home. That's why I say, don't let anybody put you in this box. Don't let anybody limit you. Because there's so many different ways to go about doing this the right way and not come out of pocket like crazy.
I feel like it's a huge learning process for me, because when it comes to learning new things, like my immediate reaction is, oh God, what if I'm not good enough to do it? What if, I
Oh no,
can't do
don't
it?
let
How
that
do I make
happen.
it sound good? How do I make that sound right? Like, so it's
So
overcoming a lot of anxiety to do what I need to want to do.
with Jax, when I did voice 1, 2, 3, I felt that. But then auditioning and auditioning and auditioning and auditioning and not turning anything down, even the little roles that were like $25. I'm like, how do I was literally tweaking everything that I'm doing now. I was tweaking. This is what I sound like when I'm this part of the mic. This is what I sound like when I'm on this part of the mic. This is what I sound like when I'm in my lower register. This is what I sound like if I really go really high. Well, how do I do? Like somebody just asked me on voice 1, 2, 3 for a very minimum amount of money to do uh Wilt Chamberlain, Dr. King, Michael Jackson, and Nelson Mandela, and someone else I can't remember. So I'm like, and they're like, can you do all of those? Usually someone would ask different people to do those different things for their project. And they're like, can you do all these different voices? Well, I'm going to try to imitate. There's times where I go and I'm like, I don't even go to the actual person that they're asking me to do. There are times where I'll never forget Jay Farrell. I met Jay and I said, Jay, I have used your videos to get jobs because of the way you imitate people. And I mean, he's just unbelievable. And so he was like, what, for real? I'm like, yeah. And he was like, oh, man, thanks, man. It's an honor because I know who you are. And I'm like, you know me? He's like, yeah, man, you did this. And I'm like, dang, Jay Farrell knows me. And I'm sitting there like, bruh, this is crazy. There have been times I've gone and looked at Jamie Foxx imitate people and gotten like major jobs. I watched Jamie imitate, what's my man name from Empire? I don't know why I'm losing it.
I know.
Terrence Howard. Terrence
yeah.
Howard. I watched Jamie interview Terrence Howard, and I'm like, I don't sound like Terrence. I worked with Terrence when I first started off on Sparks. And I went, it's all his characteristics. Oh, damn, Jamie, you got it. Oh my gosh, that's Terrence. And I went, I'm not even going to study hustle and flow. Or I'm not even going to study what Terrence did right now. I'm going to watch what Jamie did. Then I'm going to go to Terrence, and then I'm going to go to Terrence, and then I'm going to go back to Jamie. I'm going to put it together, and I'll go into this audition. And it's basically to voice match Terrence Howard for a movie that he had done. Got the job. Still getting residuals from the movie. And it wasn't like a big successful, but it was like, how do I get this down? Because I just want to make sure I get it right, baby. I just got to get it right. And I'm like, you talking about a dude from Chicago with a deeper register, and Terrence is way up here, but you can come down here sometimes. And so you try to imitate people's voices, but now you have to take the imitation and make it real. So when you talk about The Rock and you say, I've got a Joe flag, a G.I. Joe flag. so you think you're a soldier, huh? So you start doing all these different imitations, but then you got to put them into a character. So now I go and do looping for Ballers, and they're like, hey, John, come up and do the Rock's part. He didn't want to do this part. Oh, okay. Well, thank God I looked at all of his stuff before I went in. So now I can go, okay, I'll go and do that. That's how a lot of things happen. Like Samuel L. is not going to go in and do a toy of Frozone unless they give him a lucrative contract. That is his voice. That is, it's like Eddie Murphy. People don't understand that when he did Donkey for Shrek, most of the toys that you saw after that, that's not Eddie Murphy. I can't even remember the dude's name. It's a white dude who can imitate Eddie Murphy to a T. And of course, he can imitate Eddie Murphy's character as Donkey. But when it comes to imitating Eddie Murphy, that's when I would be like, "Hell, man, just do Eddie Murphy. I want to hear you do Eddie Murphy talk." Because that's when you get called in to do all of the dubbing that they don't have time to do because they're on a set or they're filming this or they're doing that. You know what I'm saying? So now you can come in and go, I am Iron Man. So you think you're the only superhero in town? So you start doing all that because they've already laid it out. And they're like, well, I don't have time to do that right now. Get such and such. And some of them were like, yo, ask such and such to do it. So that's one of my bucket list things. I want to meet Samuel L. because he is incredible. He is, Samuel L's, the simple fact, this is what he taught me. No job is too little. It's about longevity. Because after you finish your job, you got to go out and get more work to do another job. So how do you continue to make yourself relevant? How do you treat people on set? How do you perform? How many gears do you have? Are you one note? Do you do the same thing all the time? You know, how do you do this and make people love you and want more of you all the time? Because that's why people were saying, hey, I want to do soap opera work. I'm like, okay, cool. But if I'm in somebody's house every day, unless I'm playing a character a specific way and have range to do all my other work a different way, if I'm going to play a character a specific way, and that's what everybody sees every damn day at any given time that they want to, now with the invention of being able to record and see it whenever you want, what's going to make them, because it's a business, what's going to make them come to see me in the theater if they can see me on television every day? So that was the dilemma. So I better have some range. Mm-hmm. I better be choosing different characters. I better be fighting for my agents to cast me as different characters and in different projects that don't pigeonhole me, that don't stereotype me, that don't put me in a box to that's the only category I can do. So, I mean, that's just a bit of advice off the top of my head for you and everybody who's listening.
No, thank you, because it's good to get this insight. Like, I actually did not think I would have the opportunity to get so much insight, especially being so early into becoming a voice actor. So this insight has been amazing. Again, like you said, not just for me, but for everybody who has that interest. I remember we had a young brother come up to us. He was at our LA event, I want to say, and he said he wanted to be a voice actor. And Zeno was there, actually. And this kid sounded like he could be a voice actor. Like, he just had such a distinct voice. So I feel like if he's watching this, that's going to really help him as well. Like, you've given us like a lot of advice. There's something that I do want to ask though, and if you could, what would be one of your most engaging roles? Like, what was one of your favorite but also most challenging roles?
I did a piece that most people probably haven't seen. It's called The Last Appeal, and it's about 5 men on death row, and we shot it in 2 days. It was a play that we had toured around Southern California and different areas, and it was a play about redemption, about faith, about forgiveness, and it was one of the most deepest plays I'd ever done, and it was close to it because I was ministering in it. And at the end of the play, we did an altar call, and they had me do the altar call, and we toured this thing for years. And finally someone said, hey, why don't you make it into a film? So we made it into a film, and stage is completely different from film, especially you go from one camera or from no cameras, and you have to be big, and people at the back of the house have to see your facial expressions and your movements. Well, you're in a jail cell. You're in a jail cell. And you got one camera coming at you at specific angles. They're not in the cell with you. And whenever you speak or whenever you interact, you have to be able to be way more subtle than what you normally would be on film. It was a challenge not just to do that, but then to try to find the emotion with having a face that doesn't match what's going on inside. So I was like, okay, they got to read the eyes. They got to hear the tone. They can't see because you're a criminal. You're not a criminal. You're a prisoner. And you're in prison, you can't let other prisoners see the emotion. You can't. So there's so many different things, a lot of research, a lot of study. The challenge for me, and I've always been one to, like my mom taught me to read, do the research first before you establish the character. So that was a lot of challenge. I mean, I had to go back to friends I know who are incarcerated and a lot of different things to do that role. But it meant so much because of what it stood for. And, anything that has the element of the Lord blessing folks, for me, is that's near and dear to my heart. So that was, that was a tough one. There's commercials I've done that have physically been challenging. We did an Advil commercial. I think we shot for 4 days, and everything was about, just doing physical stuff, belly flops in pools, dancing weird, just falling off a bike or a skateboard, just all these crazy things. And, that was physically challenging, but it was a lot of fun. So, there's different levels of challenge, different levels of fun, and different levels of what genre. Is it
Yeah.
television? Is it film? Is it stage? Is it commercial? Is it spokesperson? So there's a lot of branches in what we do. It's not just, hey, I want to be an actor. Okay, well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to be an actor. Okay, what do you want? How? What kind of actor? Voiceover actor, or television game show host? There's so many different genres. A singer, because singers act now,
Yeah.
And so, what do you want to do, and what can you study? What do you think you're best at, and then branch off from there as you grow.
Okay. Now this one is going to be for our fans. Like, what are some of your favorite anime or video games?
Okay, so like I said, I was the only child, and I was just mannish, man. I would get it. I was that kid who, when they had the old illegal cable boxes, you could try to tune that joint in, even though it was in the other room where your parents, you could watch all the bad movies. You know what I'm talking about? I was in there like I couldn't get the tune, but I could try to get the lines out to try to watch a little bit of the movies late at night when no one was around. So I was that kid who, my first anime that I saw, I was in a video store, I'll never forget, and I was like, that looks like a cool anime. Looks like it do a lot of karate. It was called Crying Freeman.
Oh my God, that was my first anime, no joke.
Man.
Crying Freeman was my first anime.
I was like, this is great. Right. I was like, this is great. And it was from a video store on 75th and Exchange where and so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. And then all the sex part stuff came up. I'm like,
you got all the sex, the tattooing, all the violence, and I'm just like,
yeah, right. I'm like, and he's crying.
Be watching this.
Right. And I was like, ooh. And I'm a little boy, full of testosterone and hormones running all over the place. Only child, imagination out the yin yang.
Yes.
And I'm watching this going, ooh.
Ooh, this is doing things to me. I don't know how to feel.
Right. It was like, what is that icy feeling down below? So, so I was like, this is great. And I was like, this is anime? How do you spell that? Because my mom's teacher. I'm like, oh, this is okay. All right. And I was like, there's this. And then what is this Sailor Moon stuff? What is that? And wait a second. So I started seeing all these different things. Like the other day, I watched 7 Deadly Sins. I didn't get to finish it. But there was a karate movie back in the day. There was 7 Deadly Venoms. So it was one of the best karate movies I had ever seen in my life. Kung Fu theater type. I was like, this is great. Told a story of the 7 different Toad, Scorpion, all these different, and then, and they all were friends, and then all of a sudden something happened to the master, and they got separate. So I'm thinking 7 Deadly Sins is going to be like that. Yeah. I'm like, I know it's got to be 7 ninjas. 7 something, So I put it on. I'm like, oh, this is cool. So I'm looking. I'm like, oh, this is vast. They got this world and the sky world. So I'm waiting to see somebody of color. And I'm like, well, let me look at these voice actors because I know I recognize that voice. So I started seeing some of my peers, and I went, none of these actors, and they could have easily done it. I know that wasn't what the creators' mindset, but. None of these actors, out of these 7 right here, just the world that they're interacting with, there's got to be somebody with a different skin tone. Mexican, black, Middle Eastern, something, right? And there wasn't. And I heard one voice that I recognized, and I'm like, oh, that's somebody trying to be black. I get it.
Yeah.
Because it's variation for a guard or something like that. I'm going, Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not tripping. But there aren't a lot of black people in a lot of different things that I really love. Comic books. And people will say, well, there's Black Panther. And yeah, okay, we got there is.
Panther, we got
Black
Storm.
Panther.
We
but
know.
Falcon was black. And then there's a whole bunch of amalgam that when they had Static Shock, there's a lot of black characters. I personally think Bloodshot is black.
Yeah.
The way this little short cropped hair and he just turned white when he got his bloodshot. But Vin Diesel, I guess, is doing a pretty good, decent job at it. So. But there's a lot. Vin sounds black, but anyway, there's a lot of different characters and a lot of different like Image. They did a lot of things. I can't remember the name of the series where they had the super soldier, and they showed what was the name of that? It was basically the first Captain America's.
Oh yeah.
They basically did the experiment on, which was the whole concept of Mrs. Ever's boys when they tested syphilis out on black men, and so many different things.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot out there. It's not just, and I love that they're doing it. Luke Cage and Black Panther and Falcon, and I love that they're doing it. But honestly, from the beginning, there weren't a lot of characters that were black from the mind of Stan Lee or from the mind of DC, or there weren't. There just weren't. And so when all this started coming out, I'm like, this is great. This is, and he lives in the hood. Oh, this is great. So and there's a reason that Into the Spider-Verse did well. Mm-hmm. There's a reason. It's needed. There's a reason that Black Panther broke records.
Yeah.
It's a genre that everybody wants to see, not just us. You know what I mean? So the fact that you guys are doing that makes my heart happy, because I didn't grow up seeing that. And so I'm going, all right, now I have to make my voice sound like that, because that's visually what I see, and I know it's what the fans see, so I have to make it sound like that. But now there's black characters, it's like, I don't have to make it sound like what everybody wants it to sound like. I grew up with that dude. That's my uncle. Oh, that's my cousin. Oh, hey, you know what? It sounds just like my dad. Or, you know what I mean? So I can do all those different things. So that's the flexibility. Did I answer that question? I'm sorry.
You did, actually. Okay. Yes, you did. And you answered other questions that I wanted to ask perfectly. Like, I had a couple of questions, but I'm just like, he asked all the questions and even more than I intended. So that's even better.
Cool.
This has been an incredible interview. And not even hopefully, we will definitely try and get you working with us, like, on a character.
Oh.
Like, without a doubt. It would
in a heartbeat, I would.
I promise you it would be an honor.
In a heartbeat, I would. I admire what you guys do. I'm a fan. What you guys are doing is just beautiful. And Johnny is just putting out more and more and more content, which is great. I went all the way back to the comic books that he suggested. I'm waiting for my volume 1 to come on Wednesday. But then I tried to use my Kindle to get a bunch of them, and I couldn't use Kindle for one of them. It just gave me a sample. So I'm going back to Amazon to see how I can use what I can buy on Kindle so that I can have, because that's the only way I get to really sit down and read now. If I'm on the go and I have a minute here, I'll just, sit down and read. And I just finished, I didn't just finish it. I finished it a little bit ago, but I'm going back to it. Lock and Key was a series by Joe Hill, and they just made it into an episodic thing on Netflix. And so that I'm just like, yo, this is great. This was one of the best comic books that I had read. And I know that these comic books that are coming out of Noir Caesar, I'm like, yo, these are some of the best comic books. Stories. The stories are great. And they look like me. You know what I'm saying? They look like us.
We got to send you some things. Like, whatever comics that you want, let us know. We'll be happy to send you some. Like, without a doubt. Like,
you don't want to do that.
We're happy to send you anything you need.
You're going to be mad because I'm going to be like, this one. And I'm that dude who's like, I can't just have the comic book, because that's what made me mad as a kid. When I did all the Odyssey, when I did the Iliad, I'm like, Mom, what's next? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, I need the next one. And she's like, what do you mean the next one? So I was like, it's like when I'm reading my Spider-Man comic books or my Hulk comic books, or when I'm reading these things, Wolverine is said to be continued. And she's like, did it say to be continued? I said, no, it didn't, but I know there's another one. And she's like, no, baby, these are ancient stories that were written. This is Greek and Roman mythology back in the day. There's no more. I'm like, what? Okay. And I didn't know anything about graphic novels. I didn't know that a bunch of series could be in one book till I got to college. So that's where all my little extra money got spent. But when I found that out, I'm like, what are you talking about? So I can't do the little one. This is just a part of the series. I got to do graphic novels. So I'm serious. And then I got to college and I went, wait a minute, there's more. Joseph Campbell has 3 volumes of mythology from every different culture that you can possibly think of. And so I'm like, I'm still reading them. Now that I'm a dad and, I don't have time, everybody's like, where are you at in Final Fantasy VII? You're in the game. You haven't gotten past. I'm like, listen. You know what? I got to take the game out of my son's room to play it. So, yeah, I'm all over the place with it. But, it's all good. It's been an honor. So thank you so much, Jax.
Thank
and
you.
as far as your voice, I'm going to straight up tell you this. Don't ever be afraid to use your lower register. Because there's going to be times when you do a character, and in the world, we think of a woman with a lower register in one of two ways. Oh, my gosh, that's sexy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Or, dang, I wonder if, is she a fighter? Is she, so many different connotations go along with it. But the sexy as hell is what most gamers go, ooh, who is that? I wish you. So you can use that. But the beautiful thing is what you just did, I couldn't hit that octave of thank you.
Oh my God.
So you have to understand that's your range. You can pitch up and you can pitch down. Most women can't pitch down. They can't pitch down. They can try to sound sexy, but it sounds like this. And it's like, you sound like a drag queen. You don't sound, and don't get me wrong, drag queens can sound sexy. But it's me trying to do it. You know what I mean? But it's just, you have to know that range is a prize. That's not a curse. That's a blessing. That range is incredible. So you'll be able to find your normal range and play with it. So if you go and do a character where they just want Jax, then you can do Jax with that character. But within that character, you might be talking like, oh my God! And you see what I'm saying? You're playing. You know what? I can't even believe that. So you're going from one end of the spectrum, think of it as a spectrum, to the other. So even in the upper register where you are, if you say, well, I want to do a character, but I want to pitch her up because she's younger, still leave yourself room, because when most of us laugh, we pitch up higher. So if you're doing a character, if I'm doing a character like this, and I just want to make sure that I talk, I'm talking, and I want you to understand. I got to make sure that I've still got to leave room for the upper register to do a character to make them effective. And also, here's a hint for you and for everybody else.
Yes,
everybody wants to hear your character that you create at some point laugh.
Oh God.
Even bad characters laugh. You think about Japanese anime.
Oh yeah.
When they laugh, it's usually like, I'm gonna kick your butt. It's always like, I'm about to kill you or I'm about to destroy you, and then that's when they laugh. You never hear them laugh when they're talking like this. They're just menacing and going to kill you, and then all of a sudden, it's like, what the hell? You take pleasure, and that's what makes that menacing character scary, because they don't laugh when you crack a joke or when something funny happens. They laugh when they're about to do something scary.
Yeah.
It makes you go, oh my gosh, you're psychotic. So it's little things like that to play with in that range. You have the range. Now use it. Listen to people you like. Listen to people you admire. Do a Cree Summer study. She's incredible. Oh
my God.
Do a Mela Lee study. She's incredible. And then say, what can I do with my range? Or can I imitate this person? Or, do those little drills and constantly do them. You'll be fine. You're going to be fine. And you're in the perfect spot to be doing stuff. I mean, Johnny has created a world of work. He
really has.
Play and hone your craft.
Put you two together like on a phone call, because like he was excited to find out about the interview. So like I'm gonna give you his information and we're gonna like set up a call between you two.
Oh, I would love.
I feel like you two would have so much to talk about.
Oh, just the sports aspect.
Yeah.
And what we love, but probably couldn't talk about with other folks in our locker room. Like if I would have talked about Crying Freeman in my locker room, they'd have been like, "Man, you look at cartoon porn." No, it's actually anime. It's beautiful. Did you, and then this character, and then the grandma, and it's, man, you crazy, something wrong with. I mean, I kid you not. I used to do homework at a jazz bar. I would go to a jazz bar, sit down, and do my homework, and my teammates thought I was nuts. They're like, you weird, dog. Weird. Like, no, I needed music. My dad brought me up as an eclectic. I needed music to focus. Man, it's just different. So I'm sure me and Johnny are probably cut from the same cloth.
You know what? I'm looking forward to you two talking. Like, this interview has been amazing. Thank you so very much for your time today. Like, is there anything else you want to say? Like, where can people find you, learn more about you?
Man, somebody asks me this all the time. Yeah, I gave you that look because it's like I don't know. I think it's just John Bentley. It's how some got at and then some got
Yeah.
pound. It's just look up my name, John Bentley. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but I know none of y'all young folks do Facebook no more. And you can find the body of work, like I said, on IMDb, Internet Movie Database. But I'm out there. I'm Twitter and what's the Instagram. I just don't know
Great.
my handle.
That's right. Like,
What is my name?
Include all of your information when we post this. Like,
Oh, good.
thank you so very much. We're gonna have to talk again soon. Like, I'll be happy to put you in touch with Johnny. Like, this
for sure
was an amazing interview. So thank you so much for your time. Stay safe where you are. And again, thank you so much for this. This was
you too, and everybody else out there. Stay safe, stay healthy, please.